Welcome. Glad you're here today.
Wow, that's a lot of energy this morning.
I have a ton of energy this morning. I got a full night's sleep last night. I had a cup of coffee, got some good time with my girls this morning, and so I'm like kind of chipper. Oh, and I think I'm also excited because we leave tomorrow.
Yeah, we leave tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow we are heading to Mississippi for the marriage conference. It's one of our favorite things to do together, and so I'm excited.
Yeah, we had a good day yesterday, though. We toured Flagler College in America's oldest city, St. Augustine.
Yep. It's so gorgeous. Like, I'm very glad that we had the opportunity to
Our
tour it.
second born, Isabella, she's a junior, going to be a senior next year, is
It's crazy.
thinking about going to college there for art. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were really looking for a school that she can commute back and forth and stay living at home. It's just much easier financially. And this is it's a good school.
The dining hall looks like Hogwarts.
Mm-hmm. She liked that.
Like Harry Potter. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's very beautiful, the old architecture. So we had a good day yesterday. We did that, and then we teamed up and did a paint job together.
Got to finish that today?
Yep, work together. We're doing that as soon as we're done with this. So that's what's going on in our lives. What's going on in your life? You having a good week? Having a good day? Share with us. We like
Beautiful
to hear from you.
sunshine here. I was talking to one of our listeners from Colorado yesterday, and they were getting snow.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And when we got home late last night, we decided to watch one episode of a show, and in the show it was snowing, and we were both like,
So help me, Todd.
yeah, we were both like, oh, I'm so glad we don't live in the snow anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry to everybody who does. We love you.
Yeah. But
God bless you.
there's still room in Florida. They're building a house right across the street. So
Yeah. And the house next door to us is for sale. So come on down, buy it.
shoot us a message and we'll get you the address. And then you could be a regular on the show.
Yeah.
You could be our live studio audience.
That'd be so weird.
One person sitting here.
Whoa. Yeah, making comments. Wow. I feel like this is going to be a weird one. All right. Go ahead.
Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The family meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. What?
You just sound weird. I don't know.
What?
You
What do
said
you mean?
relationships really weird. Go ahead. You're doing great.
I'm Thomas, and this is my wife. New hairstyle. You like that new hairstyle? I noticed. Have you guys noticed her new hairstyle?
I've been growing out my bangs, and I don't like it. I think today I'm giving up, and I'm going to cut them. Hello, and welcome to our family. What?
Nothing.
What were you going to say?
Nothing.
Yeah, right. You were going to say something. Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 186 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about personal growth. You and your spouse are both growing. How can you make sure, though, that you're growing together and not apart?
Yeah, because, you get married and you just assume the person's going to stay the same. Like their hairstyle is going to stay the same. And then all of a sudden, after 20 years, somebody changes their hairstyle. And it's like, what do you do?
You cut your bangs.
Okay.
I started to grow out my bangs, and it's like a whole big ordeal in our family because I never change anything.
Well, and here's what happened. And guys, this is it. She does it. We tell ladies not to do this. And this is what she did to me. You notice anything different? Notice anything different? I'm like, no.
But you're saying it wrong. That is not what I said. I said, do you notice anything different about my hair?
And I'm like, it's clean?
Which is so different. Well, what I was saying is like, I wanted to know if it actually looked different. Because to me, any change is like, whoa, this is so different. And so I was trying to figure out if it actually looked different or if it was just my own mind. Because oftentimes my own mind is, well, it's crazy in there.
But
And you didn't notice a difference.
I'm the worst person to ask.
You look at me all the time.
I know, but literally, so in our living room where we're currently recording, we have a full couch, like a love seat type of thing. And behind the love seat towards the kitchen is a table. And we were sitting around yesterday or the day before, I forget which day. And I said, who put those flowers there? All of a sudden there's like these lilies.
They're beautiful.
Sitting on the table. And She was like, those have been there for like 3 days.
Yeah, they were given to me by
And
a
I've
very
walked
sweet
by
friend.
them, I don't know how many times, and never noticed them.
Yes, I understand that. But what I was trying to say is like, does my hair actually look different or is it in my mind?
Well, and I'm not going to lie. I'm not typically looking at your hair. So
Oh my goodness.
just
I don't even
saying.
know where to go from there.
But all right, before we jump into this whole growing together, not apart thing, I want to encourage you to jump on our Facebook community group if you haven't already. A lot of great conversations going on there. This week, I threw out this question. I'm going to throw it out to all of our listeners as well. And that is, what can you do to be a help to your spouse this week? So what's something that you can do? And some of the answers were great. Some of the answers were like a little funny. Like one person was like, I'm going to go to work. Yeah, get out of the house and leave her alone. How about that?
Tell everybody what you did.
I took out the garbage in our bathroom.
Which is such a help to me.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it was overflowing and everything else. I noticed it, which is huge.
Hey, could you not tell everybody on the podcast that our bathroom trash was overflowing?
Was it not?
Can we just keep that a secret?
No, this is what we do here. I just want them to know that I actually noticed it.
Yeah, because it was overflowing. And it was overflowing.
I took it out without even being asked or implied. Like, you didn't imply it, you didn't ask.
I know. I got home from work and I was like, he took out the trash.
Which, if you read our book, and Nick commented underneath this, he's like, I read your book. That is a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. It really did mean a lot to me. I'm not even being sarcastic. I was really thankful. And I noticed it the second I walked in our bathroom.
So we have some fun conversations in our Facebook group, a lot of memes and everything else. But we also throw in some, like, hey, do something this week to work on your relationship. So it was good to hear some of the answers.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about growing together and not growing apart. And it's funny because I've heard two perspectives from people about marrying young. Okay. The first perspective is this. We were too young to get married. We hadn't grown up. And when we grew up, we grew apart. Have you heard people say that?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard it too.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there is truth to that. And then here's the other quote that I have heard. We married so young. It was great because we grew up together and got so close.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So no matter when you got married, you both grew, right?
Hopefully.
And,
if you didn't, like, if you're stuck as the same person
That's
year
not
after
good.
year after year after year, man, you need to learn to challenge yourself. Because I hate to be the one to break it to you, you are not perfect. I mean, Lysandra is, but you are not.
Yeah, right.
So you've got some growing to do. I've got some growing to
Yeah.
do. Let's work on ourselves, work on each other.
And Thomas and I identify with the latter. We married so young, it was great because we grew up together and got so close. That is what happened to us. I was 18 years old when we got married. He was 22. And we were babies. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
some people look at our wedding picture and they literally say, you guys were babies. And we really were. Even like the other day, I was having a conversation with a friend about your first experience in the bedroom.
Oh, nice.
And I knew nothing, which we've shared that before when we've had discussions on that specific topic of intimacy. And I knew nothing. Like, I was a homeschool Christian girl who was completely naive and knew nothing. A lot of things surprised me when I got married. And she was like, you didn't know that? And I was like, no, I was 18. I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes it hits me like I was literally a kid. We got married and I was a child. But for us, it was a good thing because we did grow. Both of us grew as individual people, but we grew together. We grew up together in our marriage. And so that's what we want to talk about today is how can we as individual people grow, but not grow apart, grow together. And so we're going to talk about how to develop that personal growth and growing together in marriage.
So last week we talked about the conversation your mom had with you about cycle, right? The
Yeah.
one-time conversation.
Yeah.
Did she have a conversation with you about sex?
No, not at all. Nothing.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if I... Yeah, no, I think the only... Okay. I think the only thing that my dad said, this was right before we got married, he said something about like, keep your man happy or he'll find it somewhere else. Something like that.
Oh, geez.
And even that was vague. And I knew that it meant sex, but I didn't know, like, I didn't know what sex really was. We were about to get married and I really didn't know what it was. Like, I kind of knew.
So you never took his advice, huh?
Oh. Well, not today.
Oh, man. But we need to start this conversation by understanding what it is to grow as a person. Mm-hmm. Growing as a person is a continuous process of self-improvement. And we should always be working on ourselves. We talk about this a lot, being a pastor of a church. Every Sunday, we talk about next steps. We talk about growing in our relationship with God and not being complacent with where we are and working on our spiritual selves. And the same is true as far as every aspect of our lives, is we ought to continually be growing in spiritual aspects, in our mental health, emotional maturity, social skills, which I still have a lot of work to do in that.
But you've grown a lot.
Career development. This is, I listen to books all the time, read books all the time. I never read books for fun. Like, I read them for career development is one of those things. Like, I want to constantly be learning and growing as a communicator, as a pastor, as a leader. Marriage books, parenting, all that parenting ability. We want to grow in that. Self-control, physical discipline, and just, the opportunities for growth are endless, the different areas where we can be growing. And so I want you to stop and just think about the different areas of your life. Okay?
So you just listed a bunch of them.
Now think about these areas of your spouse's life. So neither of you are the same as the day you got married, no matter how long you've been married. Mm-hmm. And we all grow at different rates and everything else, which that can complicate and cause its own set of issues. But hopefully you can look back. For us, it's been almost 21 years. Look back at the last 20 years and say, I am not the person I was. Lysandra's not the person that she was. Now, it took me a while to realize that you would not be the same person.
Yeah, and I thought you wouldn't be the same person either. And this is one thing that we tell people and we encourage people to understand is you can't change your spouse, right? So when you get married, you kind of think like, I know I can't change my spouse. I accept them for who they are, how they are. But in a way, yes, they do change. It's not that you can be the one to change them, but they change in that they grow, mature. They have all of us have experiences that change us.
Yeah.
And so to a certain extent, your spouse will change. And as you grow as a person, you need to make sure that you don't leave your spouse behind or get left behind yourself in this growth and change process. That's why we're talking about growing together, is so no one gets left behind, right? And the way to ensure you don't grow apart from each other is to communicate constantly. This is, I think, overall the biggest thing. We're going to share a lot of other ideas on how to make sure that you're growing together and not apart. But this, I feel like, really is like the umbrella over it all. So all of the ideas we're going to share with you today really do come back to communication and talking about it. So this includes like sharing everything. Now, I know that many of you are like, yeah, not everything. No. Share everything. Like, share it all. Share everything, especially what you're learning and how you're changing. Now, I naturally share everything. Like, I don't even have to be very close to you and I'll share everything.
Yeah.
Thomas does not naturally share everything, but he works at it and he tries to.
It's one of the areas where I'm trying to learn and grow.
Right, which I love about you. Because when we first got married, he was very quiet. And like sometimes we would have like dinner with friends. And you know how it is. You tell your story, I tell my story that like kind of relates. And he would tell a story to somebody that related to their story. And I'd be like, I never knew that about you. I never heard that story. And he'd be like, oh, I kind of forgot about it. Or I never thought about it.
Yeah, until they brought their story up. And then I was like, oh, wait, it kind of brought it back.
Right. So just sharing everything can really help keep you close and grow together. So just yesterday, it was yesterday, Thomas, without any prodding or hinting from me, shared this thing that's going around on social media and just told me like the whole story, told me his thoughts on it, his opinions on it, his reaction when he first saw it and read it. And it was awesome. It was like he was letting me into this part of his life. So share everything, right? Confide in your spouse about how you feel and your thoughts about things, because your thoughts will change about things. The way you look at things, your worldview will change over the years. Hopefully it stays true to the word of God and to your beliefs and that kind of thing. But I'm talking about like the way you view the world will change. And as it changes, make sure you share that with your spouse. Let them in on that. Don't close the door. In what ways are you growing spiritually? Let's talk about that. Share that with your spouse. Share your devotional reading. So right now I'm reading through Proverbs, and I could, which I haven't yet because we just started this morning, but I want to share with Thomas the things that I'm learning through Proverbs. And today it was all about speech. And sometimes a wise person needs to shut their mouth.
That's what you wanted to teach me today?
No. That's what I wanted to share with you that
like,
I'm learning.
Honey, you need to be quiet.
No, you're the quiet one. I'm the one who needs to be quiet. So that's what I'm learning. So I need to share that with him. Talk about what you're learning through scripture. Discuss thoughts over the sermons you heard at church each week. On the way home from church, it should not be like time for everybody to scroll on their phones. Let's talk about what we heard about church, at church, what the message meant to us, how the Holy Spirit spoke to each of us. If you talk about and share all of your spiritual growth, you will grow together. You will. You won't grow apart.
Yeah. It can be difficult though, because you sometimes have spouses that aren't interested in spiritual things, which is a huge part of a person's life, right?
Yeah.
And so there may be certain areas where it is difficult.
Absolutely.
And what you do is you do these things in the areas where you can in your relationship, because obviously for everybody, it's not going to be a blanket across the board. I'm going to be able to, they're going to identify and be there with me in this thing.
Yeah, you might not both be able to grow spiritually because one of you may not know the Lord, or one of you may not be interested in growing, in which case you still have to grow spiritually.
Yes.
You may have to leave your spouse behind on that, but if you can, grow together.
And as you can, you share these things. So they may not be interested in hearing the whole Sunday sermon, but it may be like, hey, I was reading in Proverbs today, this little proverb about speech. What do you think about that? Mm-hmm. And finding ways to try to connect in that.
Mm-hmm. Build a bridge.
When you can't, when maybe it's not a, hey, we're exactly on the same page type of thing. But even in that, like you're able to help them just a little bit and open up that door, and that conversation, even just a little bit, can go a long way in the end. But for those of you who can, you be intentional about growing spiritually together. And I'm gonna focus in on the men here and encourage men to take the lead in this area, in your family's spiritual growth, in your relationship with your wife, and be sharing what spiritually is happening in your life. You are supposed to be the head of the home, the leader, the one who sets the example. And so here's some ways you can do this. Do a Bible study together. And that could be a number of different things. There's so many options out there. And it's so easy today. You don't even have to have the physical book as far as like some sort of Bible study, whatever. Like you can go on the Bible app and just click a reading plan that is a book of the Bible and just go through it together. Lysandra and I do this from time to time, where it's like we'll go through a reading plan together and we'll both comment what we thought about it. Go to church together, serve together, worship together, witness to others together, pray together out loud. We're just talking about, hey, these spiritual disciplines, like practice them together. And it's amazing how that will bond you as a couple, as you're taking this spiritual journey together. Maybe you're going to go on short-term mission trips together. And man, what a life-changing experience that is. Mm-hmm. Lysandra and I have taken trips together. And I always look forward every year when our South Africa trip comes around and seeing all the memories that we made there. And it was like 7 years ago now already, but I think about how that helped to grow us together, the experience that we had there. Listen to worship music together. So are you seeing a theme here? Together. Lysandra and I have done almost everything together over the years, and the things we do separately, like men's conferences and Bible studies, ladies' conferences, Bible studies, we're just getting ready to go to a couple of conferences separately. So Lysandra's going to be going to a ladies' conference over in Destin. I'm going to be heading up to South Carolina for a pastor's conference up there. And what we do is we talk about everything once we're back together again. And so she'll share everything that's happened at the ladies' conference, what she heard and what happened, and I'll do the same for her about the pastor's conference.
So we just really dug into and looked very clearly at spiritual growth together. But you can take this pattern of doing, learning, and experiencing together in the spiritual sense and apply it to all the other aspects of life. So maybe it is hobbies, do the hobbies together. And if you don't do the same hobbies, then you have to talk about the hobbies with each other. But do it all together. And the things that you can't do together, talk about it in detail once you're together again. Thomas, how do you do about telling me things in detail?
Great.
Nope, you don't. He's not self-aware. Yeah, I'm like, hey, how did it go? And what's always your answer? Fine. It's fine.
I've been doing better. Think of how much I've talked about Caitlin Clark to you.
Yes. Yeah, you have. No, I know you are doing better. I'm really teasing you.
But
yeah.
but Lysandra doesn't care about that. Like, as far as she doesn't want to really watch herself.
No, I don't want to watch Caitlin Clark, but I want him to watch her and tell me everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I want him to tell me like all of the stats and, how they're doing and what's happening. Because I do care about it, mostly because you care about it. If it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't care about it. I would be happy for my Iowa people.
Yeah.
And as an Iowan, I would be happy. But like, I care about it because you care about it.
And the things you do that don't have anything to do with me, like I'm constantly asking about it. Like,
yes.
Hey, how was this paint job? Or how was this ladies' Bible study? Or your meeting with this person? Yep.
And for me, telling everything in detail comes naturally. I don't even try. I try not to talk as much. But some of you may have to work a little harder at sharing everything in detail. But as you do, that will help you to grow together because you're not leaving the other one out of what's happening in your life. So let's look at some warning signs. We're going to kind of flip the coin a little bit. Some warning signs that you might be growing apart rather than together. And as you listen to these, think about your own relationship with your spouse. Are these things happening in your relationship?
Yeah, and the thing to kind of think about is, are you, the way I kind of think of it, we're talking about even in things that are separate, communicating and bringing your spouse into that part of your life is kind of like mending two things together versus having two separate silos where you're just completely growing differently. But one of the warning signs here is decreased communication. So you're not really talking a lot about what's going on in your life and about the things that are important to you. As a couple, you ought to be able to freely talk about the things that are important to you, even if it doesn't make sense to the other person.
Right.
Like, I enjoy playing Call of Duty, right? And Lysandra, how do you enjoy playing?
I don't enjoy playing. I don't enjoy watching it. I don't enjoy when you play it. But I'd like to give you that space so that you can do it. And honestly, I like to hear about it. Like, I want you to just tell me how much fun you had or like what missions you completed.
Yeah, nice.
Like, I want to hear that because I love to hear you talk. And I love to hear what's happening in your mind and your heart. I really hate Call of Duty. But yeah. I think it's great that you have something that is your chill out. That's your release. You need that.
Yeah, and there's stuff that you do. Like we had a baby shower here the other day, and Lysandra was all excited about. It felt like months, but it was probably only weeks, where she was ordering different things, decorations, and
planning
whatever
the games,
else.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it's anybody but Lysandra, I could care less about the party. I could care less what the decorations were. But because it's important to Lysandra, I want to hear about it. And it's fun you're thinking about the decorations and you have this like glimmer of joy in your eye. And I enjoy seeing that when you're talking about that kind of stuff, because it does bring you a lot of happiness and it's important to you. But when the communication stops and you're not talking about it, that's a sign you're starting to grow apart. Maybe there's a lack of attention. Mm-hmm. So you don't pay attention or listen to each other. And we have a tendency to do this sometimes just naturally as people. We're most interested in ourselves, and when somebody's talking about something that doesn't have anything to do with us, we kind of just shut down.
Yeah, it can get boring unless you choose to care.
And so what you've got to understand, and we've got to learn to retrain our brain, is whatever my spouse is talking about, that is about me, because we are one flesh.
Yes.
And so making sure that we are present in the moment, that we are paying attention. And a lot of the things we talked about last episode with being approachable and the body language and all that would fit right in right here. And so you think about, hey, you stop paying attention here. That's a sign. You're not listening to each other. And then when you do communicate, arguments ensue. And so you may stop trying to communicate to avoid a fight, which leads to unresolved conflict.
Yeah. So all of those are real issues and can show that you're going to be growing apart rather than together.
So rather than mending these things together, we're literally ripping and tearing them apart.
Yes. How about this? Your routines are completely opposite of one another. So you're literally moving in different directions. We are talking like logistically and physically, not, emotionally or metaphorically, but you're distant literally, where, he's always going off to work over here. I'm going off to work over here. We then, one of us comes home and picks up this kid and takes them to this sport, and this kid goes to this sport, and nobody's together, like physically together. And then when we do finally maybe crawl into the same bed together, maybe not even at the same time, we're so exhausted. There's no communication, there's no talking, there's no cuddling. It's just hit the pillow and go to sleep. This is a sign you are growing apart. Your routines are taking you apart. And just general absence, like not being together, can lead to you growing in different directions. Remember, you will both grow. You will both change. Yeah. And if you are completely separated and you're living separate lives, you're going to grow apart. You're not growing together. You have to stay close in a literal sense. And I understand, like, there are military families and, there are people who do long distance relationships, like married couples who have to do long distance. And I know that can work, but the challenges are much greater. So if you don't have a job that forces you to live apart from one another, then don't live apart from one another. Live together. Figure out ways that you can simplify your schedule and your calendar and match things up. Schedule times where you are physically together, like in the same room, at the same event, doing the same thing.
Well, and some of you do have schedules that are literally opposite. Like he works nights and I work days. Yep. And so it is extremely difficult, but that doesn't mean that you can't grow together.
Right.
You just have to take the things we're saying about communication and being proactive, and you've got to up it up. You got to ramp it up.
Yeah.
And so your messaging has to be through the roof. Your phone conversations have to be off, and you've got to over communicate on everything because they're not there to see it. They're not there to be a part of it and experience it. And so you have to both, be working at really communicating a lot.
Absolutely. And like taking that example of, one spouse works nights, one works days. That happened in my home growing up. My mom and dad did that so that there would be someone home with the kids all the time, us kids. So I understand that happens, but there are ways around that too, like scheduling both of your days off. So make sure that your days off are together and that that day off is spent together.
Vacations and things like that.
Vacations together. Or like, if it is you're on opposite shifts, you might have 1 hour window where you both are off before the other goes to work. One's getting off work, one's going to work. That hour should be like totally reserved, precious time that you spend together. So there are ways around this. It's just about intentionality. It's about purposefully growing together.
So another sign that you are growing apart is a lack of intimacy. And this can include a lack of physical and emotional closeness. So we're not just talking about sex here, although that's a part of it. And you just have this emotional disconnect, which of course affects the physical connection. And you can turn this around.
Right.
But you have to be intentional about it. And so maybe you're in a place where you do feel that lack of emotional and physical closeness. You just start with the simple things. And just think about how I encourage people, just go back to the beginning a lot. Go back to the beginning. If you want to fix whatever the issue is, go back to the beginning and think about what it was like in the beginning and what you did in the beginning. So when we're talking about lack of physical, emotional closeness, think about in the beginning, what did you do? You probably started by holding hands and be purposeful about it, kiss hello and goodbye.
That is hard to remember.
Just those little things.
Thomas has to stop me and be like,
it's not hard for me to remember.
I know, it's hard for me to remember. Okay, so for some of us, it's hard to remember to kiss goodbye. Like, I'm just trying to save time.
She's trying to run to the next thing. And I'm like, hey, wait, whoa. Like, get back here.
I need you in my life.
Or I'm like, no, you're not leaving yet. You haven't paid the toll.
Yeah, exactly. Then I kiss him and get out of there.
Exactly.
And run.
But it's little things like that. Cuddle when you watch TV or read in the evening. Don't sit across the room. Sit right next to each other. Every time, always. And so you just start by making those little connections that show, hey, we're on the same page, and I want you near me. And just little things like that speak volumes to your partner, even if physical touch is not their thing, that's not their love language. It does say a lot that, hey, I want you near me, and it's all about showing that person that I want to be close, and of course that will lead to other things also.
Okay, this next one, and you'll agree with me, I'm sure, Thomas. We fell into this rut, and we had to really dig ourselves out of it. We assumed we knew everything about each other because we did it first.
Yeah.
So this can really cause you to grow apart if you are both assuming you already know. I already know that my wife doesn't like that. I already know that my husband doesn't want to go there. I already know he would hate that, whatever. That's assuming that you already know each other, but you have changed.
Oh, check this out.
Okay.
Happened just yesterday.
Tell me.
So we took Isabel, our second-born daughter, to Flagler College. She's a junior this year, going to be a senior next year. So she's looking at colleges and planning her future and whatever. And we had to get back quickly because our other daughter had a follow-up appointment from her oral surgery. And so we didn't have time to sit down and do a nice dinner or whatever. So I grabbed a deli sandwich from a gas station marketplace that we went to.
Yeah, we had a gas station lunch. It was really beautiful and precious.
Yeah. For a gas station deli sandwich, it was great. But it had very thin sliced raw onion. And I left it on there.
No.
Yeah.
What?
I left it on there.
Are you a raw onion guy now?
I'm not, but it didn't repulse me.
Wow. This is new.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Things change, and I was basically okay, it's small. They're very small.
Yeah.
And I just left it on there.
That's crazy. But there again, start asking questions because you can't just assume you know everything because we grow, right? Which means we change, and that both of you change, not just one. So create opportunities to share new information, like the fact that you now like raw onions sliced very thin on a sandwich. But
I'm not sure I like them. It just doesn't repulse me.
Yes. Okay. So, but see, I've got to pay attention to that information, right? Okay.
So don't order me a sandwich with onions on it.
Be like, extra raw onions, please. He loves them now. Yeah. So paying attention to that stuff, but create opportunities. Please pay attention to that. Create opportunities to share new dreams, new aspirations, lessons that you've learned, new likes and dislikes, or life perspectives. You can't it's not just going to happen. Like, you're not just going to be scrolling on your phone, sitting in the living room and get into this deep discussion about new dreams and aspirations. Like, you have to put down the phone and you have to be like, hey, honey, can we talk for a second? Is there anything that's in your life now that you want to, aspire to do or to be that maybe wasn't there a year ago? Ask some questions. You got to create the opportunities.
And so one of the ways we create opportunities like this every once in a while is like when the Powerball or the Mega Millions gets up to $1 billion, we will ask each other, like, if you won it, like, what would you do? In other words, money is now not an option, like an obstacle for anything you want to do in life. What would you do? And so that brings up some interesting conversations where you're getting your spouse to dream and whatever else. And so I always find that's kind of an interesting conversation to have.
And I think too that the things you would have said you would have bought with that million, billion, whatever, in your 20s are definitely going to be different when you're in your 30s, and they'll change in your 40s, and they'll change in your 50s, and so on and so forth.
I would buy the biggest 401 that I have ever seen.
Nice.
So, but it's not too late for you. You and your spouse can grow together again, but it will take some effort from you both. In order to be on the same page, you both have to be working at it. And I want to just kind of reiterate this because spouses always aren't on the same page. You may be married to somebody who literally has no interest in working on themselves at all. And what I would say to you is you just keep working on yourself in every aspect. You just spiritually, you work and be the person that you want to be, intellectually, emotionally, all these things, relationally, you just keep working on being the best person that you can be. And we let God kind of take care of the other person. But you can, but it takes effort. And you may now be playing catch up, but you can catch up. Mm-hmm. You can muster too.
I heard catch up too. That's funny.
That's because we were growing together.
Yeah.
Start by sharing your concerns about growing apart. I feel like over the last few years or whatever, we've grown apart. And different stages of life can do that. When you start to have kids, it can easily become all about the kids, and to a point where you have grown apart, you have drifted a little bit. And so maybe it's a new job or a move, or somebody went back to school. Like, there's different reasons why you can feel like you've grown apart, but being able to share that. See, this goes back to why we talked about communication at the beginning of this episode, because you've got to be able to share with them. And we're not accusing anybody, right? All the things that we talk about and say, we want to be careful how we say it and when and all those sorts of things. And so just expressing how you feel about it. And your spouse may not see it, or they may see it but don't want to be the first person to say something. So, there's an elephant in the room here. Let's just call it out. Like, we are not close. We've grown apart. And so being able to carefully talk about it. Mm-hmm.
And as you begin to talk about it, plan and schedule times to be together and talk. Remember, I said you have to create opportunities. So you may have to put it on the calendar. This is going to be a date night, and we're gonna talk about the way we've changed, and we're gonna share things that we view differently now, experiences that have changed us, thoughts, feelings, all of that stuff. And you could even write down some areas you feel like you've grown or changed and share them with each other. So come into the conversation prepped. And I know it's kind of like a goofy little thing, like, oh, I have to have 3x5 cards to have a conversation. But it can be good to have some structure to what you're going to talk about, so that you don't get there and oh, wait, I'm blanking out. Have some prep. Go into it. The prep is not really just about you getting ready to talk to your spouse, but it's also about you examining yourself and seeing, where have I changed and where have I grown? Sometimes we don't even see the change in ourselves because it happens very slowly oftentimes. We just got used to it. So we forget that I'm not the same way as I used to be. So that self-examination may be very, very good. And when you have these discussions, it's almost like you're filling the other person in on what's been happening in your heart and your life over the past few years, or maybe weeks or months, whatever it may be. And don't look at this like homework. This is not supposed to be like, I have to do this. It can be a new, fun, and exciting time for you two. So enjoy it. You're discovering your spouse all over again. This is a person you love and you're going to be with forever. Enjoy discovering them. Show interest in current events in your spouse's life and be interested in who they are now. Not just who they were when you fell in love with them, but who are they now, and love that person. Often in our marriage, it's like we make choices and decisions based around our spouse as we knew them originally when we first fell in love. And we've talked about that on the podcast before. And I think that even yesterday's gas station sandwich really shows more about our relationship than ever. Because in the past, like especially when we first got married, even if you were eating, you would still be the one to drive. Well, I wasn't eating, so I was like, why don't you sit in the passenger seat and I'll drive us home and you can just enjoy your sandwich and eat your sandwich. And at first you were like, oh, you don't need to. Yeah, you can do that. Because I had fallen asleep at the wheel a couple of times, it gives you a bad reputation.
Yeah.
But also
almost kill us a few times, but
when we first got married, it was like, I never wanted to drive. He always wanted to drive. Well, he's mellowed out a little bit and I don't mind driving now. So things have changed. And so it was almost like his immediate reaction was, no, I'll drive. And then it was like, wait, no, we're not the same people we were. You don't mind driving. So yeah, you can drive.
So let me eat my onion sandwich and
exactly. And be happy over there in the passenger seat. So that worked out and that was great, but we have to talk about that stuff and we have to realize that we have changed. No one stays the same year after year, right? We all go through massive changes as we move along in life. Experiences change us. World events change us. Personal interactions and relationships change us. The Word of God should change us, right? We should be growing and developing. So let's make sure that we talk about it.
And this is ketchup, but it starts... Now I can't not say that.
Ketchup and mustard. This is ketchup and mustard, guys.
Yeah. But it starts the beginning of a new era in your relationship where you keep communicating and share growth with each other. After all the effort of catching back up, don't get behind again. Mm-hmm. You have to change your relationship habits to sharing everything. And that's part of the growth as well.
Yeah.
And once you can fall into that, like that's a growth step that you have taken.
Mm-hmm. And have fun together. We talk about this often on the podcast. And we practice it in real life. Like we totally practice it. Yeah. In fact, before we even start recording, we are super goofy and stupid sitting at this table.
Spoiler alert, you may or may not get to see on social media what happened before this episode started. That got caught on camera.
I will say this. I laughed so loud that I snorted. So that's the kind of fun we have together, okay? But practice it in real life. Have fun together. Flirt. Do the fun hobbies together. Laugh, cut up, be goofy, joke around. Have fun together. And maybe you want to search for a new activity that you can try out and enjoy together. Whatever you need to do, have fun together. This will help you grow together.
Pickleball is all the rage right now. Go for it.
I honestly think that we would probably like it.
We would like it until I got way better than you, and then you would hate it, just like tennis.
Yes, I know, but here's what I think here's the key. We have to play pickleball doubles.
No.
Yes, we're on the same team.
No, because I don't want to lose.
But I want to win. We have problems. That's a podcast for another day.
I'm not completely grown yet.
You're getting there. I'm still working on it.
Still got room for growth. But learning and gaining a new understanding of who your spouse is now is not the end goal. Now you need to support one another as the person they are now. Support their new business ventures. Support the way they're trying to grow. Come alongside them as they seek to accomplish their goals. Love the person they have become. Mm-hmm. And talk about the ways you've seen them grow and mature and show appreciation for them.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that we do in our relationship frequently is we will talk to each other about like how proud we are of the other person for like, wow, you did that and that was awesome. That would have been really hard for you several years ago, about whatever it may be. And lastly, get your relationship on a maintenance plan. What? You can go to counseling not as a last resort, but as a way to stay close. Cool idea, huh? Couples therapy can be a great way to improve closeness, and a professional counselor can even mediate between the two of you as you both grow. So it doesn't have to be like, we're about to get divorced, find a therapy quick. No, you can do that as like on the regular, maybe once a month or whatever. Go to a counselor and talk things out. This way, things won't sneak up on you because you have a scheduled time to talk about stuff ongoing, and you have a great mediator to help guide the conversation. So that's just another idea that we want to throw out there.
And this is not like a, hey, do this once and I'm caught up.
Right.
It's a constant. And the way that I kind of think about it that will maybe help some of you guys out there to think about it as well is think about your favorite sports team, whatever that is. Your favorite sports team has not had the same coach and players for the last 21 years. We've been married for 21 years. Mm-hmm. Like the players have changed, management has changed, like everything about that team pretty much has changed, except for if you're at Iowa, the head football coach is exactly the same. Players all have changed, right? And the same is true of your spouse. Like they have changed, they will change, and so we kind of want to constantly be caught up. If you're not constantly paying attention, all of a sudden, and this happened with, I didn't watch hardly any Iowa men's basketball this year. So I knew some of the players, most of the players on the team, but there were certain players when I went and watched a game, and I'm like, who is this person? Because I didn't stay up on the changes that had made. And so what we want to do with our spouses, we want to try to stay up on the changes that are being made every day. And so think about this family meeting tonight, and I do want you to sit down as a couple, and this is the conversation I think we want to have is to ask them, hey, how do you think I've changed since we got married? Like, what are the things that you think I've changed? And starting with the conversation there. Mm-hmm. And that will open up to you being able to share, oh, this is how I think you've changed. Could be positive, could be negative.
Right.
And then, all right, let me share with you some of the ways I've changed since we've got married. And now I want you to share with me some of the ways that you have changed. And so you're talking first about this is what I think. All right, this is reality. This is what's really changed. And so just starting the conversation there, I think can help get the ball rolling in some of these areas so that you can work to grow together.
Thanks for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more information and content Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we talk about cousins. This was a topic requested by one of you, our beautiful listeners, and we love when our listeners reach out and give us episode ideas. We love you so much. We care about what you are thinking about.
Do you only care about the beautiful listeners, or do you care about the ugly ones too?
I think all the listeners are beautiful.
Oh, okay. I was just misunderstanding what you were saying.
Yeah, no. All the listeners are beautiful.
All of them?
Every single one.
Even that one right there?
Yeah, definitely them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, especially them. Yes. But we love you. We want to hear from you. And so send us your episode ideas. We're going to discuss next week why it's great to help your children develop those cousins relationships. Cousins are the keeper of childhood memories. I saw that quote the other day. I thought that was kind of cute. You think about that when we get together with our cousins and like start reminiscing about the past. It's very special.
Yeah.
So we want to create those opportunities for our kids too. We're going to talk about cousin relationships next week.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, you guys. What's happening in your relationship? You growing apart? You growing together? What do you think? What does your spouse
two
think?
silos growing separately, like twin towers? Or are you one freedom tower
Ooh, nice.
growing together?
Yeah.
Well, we got to get ready for this conference. We're leaving tomorrow. Hope to see you there.